Is Lifestealer still a good carry? A lot of people felt as if Lifestealer got destroyed with the changes of 723, but let's actually look at it and see what happened. Rage doesn't give attack speed anymore, that seems like a big nerf, right? But Rage used to give you 70 attack speed, and now your Feast, when you max it, gives 60 passively. That's not counting the BAT buff and the 40 attack speed he gets since level 1. Lifestealer is literally Rage 24/7 now. The other nerf that hurts Lifestealer is that now his Feast doesn't do damage based on someone's HP. It only heals and for slightly less than the last patch. Well, before we decide if this was too much of a nerf, let's watch Lifestealer playing a lane from level 1. You're seeing this shit? Look how much damage Crit can apply. Lifestealer was already a hero that rarely lost its lane, but now he very frequently can win the lane. Speaking of the items Crit gets, I'm a big fan of the Ring of Protection and extra tangos. While Orb of Venom can be good, never underestimate the lack of stealth shield on you, as well as the weaker Feast. Going Orb of Venom means less regen items at the start, and with the curry being so slow, against that much damage from Tiny and Evoker, it's always nice to have a Ring of Protection. While Lifestealer's base damage was gutted, especially when you add the laws on the Feast damage as well as the Quellan Blade, his attack speed makes less hitting versus him trickier, especially against ranged heroes or someone like a Tiny that uses Tree Grab for range creeps. Look how much damage he can output at level 2, and this is a no Orb of Venom kill, by the way, just good laning, meaning they got level 2 before Radiant, and they go. Look how Crit plays now that the wave is pushed towards his tower. He constantly goes out of his way to harass just because of how good this hero does it. One thing worth mentioning is Crit letting his tower hit these creeps even though this pushes the lane. Well, he was low HP, and Radiant has a lot of harass, but more importantly, bounties are about to spawn, and a great way to secure yours is to force your enemy to choose between bounty or CS. Now, Crit has level 4, and the wave is pushed, and even then he's attacking Tiny to remind him he is not entitled to this bounty rune. In terms of item builds, and there's a bunch of them being tested, I can tell you right now why Midas Radiant sucks. And the reason for it is that Armlet is just too good on your hero by comparison. You have 100 extra attack speed at level 7 now without spending any mana or doing anything, and your strength gain got gutted, meaning Armlet compensates for the lack of HP, and because you have less HP, Radiance is not that great. Radiance is all about having these really big bulky cores that take no damage and do damage over time. You were squishy before when you went Midas Radiance, and now it's even worse. On top of that, the playstyle right now is all about having something to offer at 10 minutes to secure outposts, and in a good game, Lifestealer can easily get a 10-minute Armlet. I really like the order Crit builds his Armlet. He gets the 2 damage items first to increase his jungling, as well as skill potential, and then he fares the rest later. In general, he played super aggressively, always trying to force denies under tower and hit the Tiny since this hero is a monster at this stage. He also already killed the large camp there, meaning he has nothing to do for a couple seconds, so he might as well pressure. This that we see right here was unheard of in the last patch for many reasons. Almost no carry was strong enough to win a lane and then take a tower, but also because this tower meant very little. But with outposts existing, the dynamics of towers changed a bit and it's better to take it out. Since you have objectives on both sides of the map now, you usually want to rotate to the other side of the map after you guaranteed your outpost, but if you're sure you're not gonna get it, then you can always try and fight with your team bottom to make sure that you can get at least one. And that's it. Tiny cannot lane, there's still time for Crit to clear his large camp, so he just pressures like crazy. He makes sure not to block the large camp as he goes back at shoving his lane, and there you go, Armlet done, so it's impossible for Radiant to get the top rune. They would probably need a lot of heroes. And well, the reality is that Radiant sends tons of heroes top, 3 initially, and see what that amounts. They get the bounty and they get the outpost, but Dire managed to get all of that bottom and the tower, since so many resources were spent to handle Crit. Yes, you can say this was a 2 for 2, but the fight itself had 2 cores from Radiant and 2 supports, against only 3 heroes of Dire. Now, if we're talking items, a lot of proccing items are trendy. You do have stupidly high attack speed from very early on, so Basher, MKB, Mjolnir are all items being purchased after Mordirian. Deso is always nice too, since your only source of damage is physical at this stage. Halberd can be good. And the last commonish item is Sanjin Yasha. Just, this hero has insane damage. He just needs the move speed to stay on top of people, and the HP regen and lifesteal buff from the item paired with status resistance are all things Sneaks love. The center eventually rotates top, so they can take that tower, kill Tiny, and now Cr1t can start occupying Radiant's map, and this tends to be a fairly passive part of the mid-game in this patch. The time between 12 and 40 minutes is mostly farm oriented, but once 14 minutes hits, you want to start pre-acquiring outposts to make sure that you can have at least one of them. Pushing the outpost lane also helps with securing that your team will benefit from it. It doesn't matter if you get it at 14 minutes and then you just leave. The outpost acquire in the lane push, Cr1t tries to get to the other one since his team collapsed from mid to bot, but Void was sneaky and managed to steal Cr1t first one, but this is usually how I want to play. Because Cr1t was proactive and preemptively got that outpost, whilst he had time to push the lane, now Void is not available for the fight happening, and even if you wanted to fight now, too many heroes are dead for him to be of any use. So that's really the way you want to be playing. In this game, Cr1t decides to go Halberd. He gives the Sange benefits and the stats are great with Empower. And he has Disarm against 3 cores that right click for the most part, so great item purchase, and the game is really straightforward from this point after this fight happens. Now we're gonna look at another game. As you can see, Chalise starts with the same opener as Cr1t, since we have quite a similar scenario here. High DPS, physical melee offlaner with an annoying range hero to back him up. And the first wave is quite straightforward. As long as Chalise draws aggro to deny his range creep, he can trade, and I really like that he prioritizes trading over the deny, since his support was being completely harassed. While denies are important, you will get 0 denies if your support has to walk back base after the first wave. So always fight with your support and protect him when people are using spells on him, and the same for your support. Just don't fuck the aggro while doing so. As you can see, not only Chalise harasses Radiant quite a bit, but because he did, he can get his range creep no problemo. Interestingly enough, in this game, he starts with a buckler. This might be odd to you, but when you think about it, Lifestealer hates going small items, and he usually has a lot of slots. Bracer is not that good on you, Wand is okay-ish, but not game winning in this lane. Buckler offers armor versus Edict and Legion, and gives you a couple stats. As we said, this hero doesn't have slot problems, so the Buckler can be in your inventory until you can get an AC, while he helps you in these first levels against the lane. He gets level 2, and thanks to the armor and open wounds, gets First Blood. Since Snapfire pulled, it's okay the Lifestealer farms in the tower since he will not push, and the emphasis in armor in this lane is high and it makes a lot of sense. Boots doesn't give Chalise kill potential here because Legion can always dispel the open wounds, so he just wants to be able to stand his ground, harass, and farm. And well, when Lash plays away from the Legion, he doesn't need boost to get that kill because he's already fast as frick. When he gets level 6 and the Catapult wave starts pushing, Chalise plays very similarly to Cr1t in the last game. He forces the hell out of this tower. He knows he can do that because Lashrak TP'd bottom and center is showing middle, so he attacks Legion as much as possible while taking aggro away, but watch how eventually press the attack gets forced and that's finally a win. He tanks a ton of tower hits, eventually is forced to ring fast. Quite unfortunate that the Catapult dies there. Because the Catapult dies, it allows Legion to get enough time to walk back to the tower, get a lucky level 6, and kill Chalise. Still a good death. He was pressuring, Legion had to walk, Legion lost like 3 waves, and only gets the small kill with the tower being pretty much done. While farming as fast as possible is always nice, look what Chalise gets this game, another armor item. Legion plus CK are pretty much only physical damage dealers, so I appreciate the build quite a bit. As the 10-minute mark comes, look where the lane is. Chalise is pressuring the best he can so that the bounty and outpost is his, while he tries to get a tower CS against Legion. He eventually gets the bounty, but he knows Legion is not alone, Lashrak was showing, so it's a weird scenario. Till eventually Radiant guarantees that one, but that's one hero forcing 2 top, and even then those 2 heroes cannot get a dual kill on the Lifestealer. Eventually, Radiant tries to fight just as the armlet gets completed and they get debated hard. While Chalise queues Maelstrom this game, he ends up going Desolator. There are Mjolnir Lifestealer games, for instance, I may rush Mjolnir against the PL in this one, and that's because he got trashed in the lane against the Timbersaw. So he's not gonna get the armlet for the 10-minute fight, doesn't make that much sense to get the armlet afterwards. And you know, PL is a different hero than CK. CK's illusions are way tankier, they do have way more damage, while also having more HP, so Maelstrom is not that great versus him, and so he gets the Blightstone already. This is a great showing of how obnoxious Lifestealer is at the moment and why Buckler was a great purchase. Just watch what happens as Chalise pushes bot tier 1 by himself. LC head blink sets up, while 2 extra heroes show up, including CK, and he lives by the skin of his teeth. That's incredible, and goes back to the armor build and so much attack speed, allowing him to lifesteal through the duel. This is another incredibly similar game. 14 minutes, let's get that outpost we don't own and push the lane. This though forces a big reaction from Radiant, but they kill the CK anyways. And see how much fighting Chalise is doing? This is why Armlet is better than a rush Maelstrom almost always. While the experience from outposts remain as big as they are, you need to be able to fight, or there's no item or farming pattern that will give your supports the experience that the enemy will have, and you just lose the game, I guarantee. And that's it. I think Lifestealer is a good hero and an awesome lane dominator. If you like playing really fast games, try him. Guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you enjoyed this content, check out our extra content on Patreon. While you're at it, we have a 100 Patreon goal to hire an editor to increase the video quality, time, as well as my time to coach and cast. So if you guys enjoy the work I'm doing, check it out. Have a good one, guys. Bye.